Influenza, a serious but often overlooked disease by the general population, is a virus infection that affects respiratory functions. It usually affects places like the mouth, nose, or lungs. Symptoms can range from mild, like illnesses, to severe, like death. Most common ones are fever, cough, sore throat, runny stuffy nose, and, and headaches and fatigue. These may lead to complications like pneumonia, bronchitis, asthma flare-up, sinus infections, and heart problems. Tiny droplets of cough, sneeze, etc. going into openings of the other person is one way for them to be infected with influenza, usually by touching infected surfaces or objects and then those openings. Influenza has a 2-day incubation period, which means that it will take 2 days for when they are infected until symptoms are shown. There are two types of spreading: seasonal, flu that appear most commonly during cold season due to cold temperature and low humidity prolonging the virus shedding and transmission, which is very contagious during that time and preventable with a yearly updated vaccines. And there's also pandemic, which are rare new strains of influenza A, usually comes in between 20-30 years and usually more dangerous or more contagious. And it usually leads to huge clinical and economic impacts. One of the most famous examples is the 1918 Spanish flu, which killed between 20 to 50 million people and infected a third of the world. Anybody with a vaccine is at risk, but some might develop serious complications and require hospitalization. These groups are usually young children under 2, seniors, pregnant women, those with weakened immune system, people who have chronic diseases like asthma and diabetes, and people who are very obese. There are 3 types of influenza: A, B, and C. A is highly contagious and highly adaptable. B is only seasonal, so it is less adaptive, but it can be as severe as type A. Type C is not severe nor as adaptive. We'll be mainly talking about influenza A as it's most well researched. Pandemic usually start from infected animal, or something like an avian reservoir, then move into a different animal like a swine, an intermediate host where the virus mutates. And once it mutates, it might be able to directly affect humans, starting a human outbreak. Non-serious conditions will get better naturally with rest and plenty of fluids. More serious conditions might require influenza antiviral drugs, which can lessen symptoms and prevent flu complications. A commonly used technique for developing the flu vaccine is by fertilizing chicken eggs being injected with the virus, then left to incubate for several days before extracted. This vaccine is called the quadrivalent flu vaccine. Normal influenza will likely only result in a fever and things like headaches and fatigue, only leading you to stay in bed for a day or two max. Plenty of rest is still recommended, but more serious complications will require you to be hospitalized, stopping normal daily functions for a longer period of time, like a few weeks. Worst case scenario is death. Each year, between 20 and 50,000 people die due to influenza in the US, mostly seniors. Prevention is an important part in dealing with the flu. It is recommended to have flu shot every year for those over 6 months. There are some everyday precautions you can take. Avoid contact with others who are sick. Cover cough and sneezes. Wash hands often with soap and water. Avoid touching eyes, nose, and mouth. Clean and disinfect surfaces and objects frequently. And it is important to keep an active and healthy lifestyle to prevent serious complications.